Hello, my name is Mordred Viking, and I'd like to welcome you to this stream of Europa Universalis IV. This is the 8th session of the Community Clash, the multiplayer game of Europa Universalis IV, where we are joined by about 30 players. I think there are a couple of people missing today. If we go through the list real quick, first of all, we have Great Britain. So, we know from people testing this in single player that if Britain doesn't ever turn up, and unfortunately Val is not well at the moment, so we were trying to get a substitute for Great Britain, couldn't do that, so we had to get the administrator, Poet, to load in as Britain, then set their AI to being brain dead, otherwise the entire country just explodes. And I mean, it explodes.
Mordred,
hello.
A message from the HRE. We heard that chat was talking shit about the epic struggle against Cthulhu waged last session. So if you would check the capitals of the current HRE players, we've all renamed our capitals in honor of the site of our glorious victory under our Emperor's leadership.
Wien, Chin Balaton. Nice. Not Berlin, still Berlin. Winged Balaton. Stockholm, still Stockholm. It also says HRE. The Pope. Roma, Holy Balaton. I like it.
And
this is
Amsterdam.
good. And who?
Amsterdam. Me.
Amsterdam. Sunken Balaton. I was looking at Kelra for some reason. I was like, that hasn't changed. Hamburg?
Well, yeah. We didn't appreciate the Chad's vicious mockery of our Emperor because he's been doing a lot of...
Yeah, he's been a really good emperor. It's just funny during that war. It's just like, you could be saving them, but you're choosing not to.
I'd like to point out to Chad, because Chad apparently forgot, there were electors on both sides of that war. That's why he stayed.
Okay.
Because, remember, the Pope is an elector, and he was on the side of France and Spain.
I still choose to believe that he was making sure that nothing arose out of Belaton.
Oh, yeah, he totally was. And Stryker wanted to let chat know that the Polish Navy gloriously died in battle to stop Cthulhu.
That is good to know.
All right, leaving you.
Yep, cool, thanks. All right, so what was I saying? I've completely forgotten what I was saying. Please ask him if Richard Cranium is okay. I can't, he's not in my chat anymore. Is this game similar to Hearts of Iron 4? Kind of, in the way that it's a grand strategy, so it's all very, very high level. But this covers the period from the late Middle Ages, early Renaissance, all the way through to the early modern. So it basically ends with the fall of Napoleon. So it's a much, much earlier time period. It's all about colonization, it's about the politics within Germany with a Holy Roman Empire, it's the growth of the Ottoman Empire, Southeast Asian politics, the machinations of Ming. Japan still is in the shogunate era, so they have to deal with their daimyos. Colonization of the Americas, colonization of Africa, colonization of Indonesia. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. Right, what I was saying is players who are not absent. So we have no Great Britain at the moment, and we have hopefully stopped Britain from just imploding. So that shouldn't happen. We have a substitute for France. France is currently being played by Chief Code Red, who may also be streaming. I should probably double check that, because I should give them a shout out, because they are also a streamer. Chief Code Red. Hello.
I think it's time to start.
Cool.
So.
Yep, go for it.
Click.
And let the madness begin. Okay, so Chief Code Red is not currently streaming, so they are just playing. That's fine. Then other people absent at the moment. Prussia is currently not here, as far as we can tell. Uran's got a substitute also, currently being played as Robespierre. Ulm is not here. Will be protected for 1 hour. Ulm did say that he was going to be late. If he's not here after an hour, then they will not be protected, because they were already protected last session. And then Maguindanao, also known as the Philippines, are also not here currently. So a couple of players which are being protected. Britain being the really big one, I think. A couple of substitutes coming in. It is up to players to find their own substitutes if they're unable to attend. But otherwise, the world is pretty full, as you can see. We are currently on the player map mode, so everything with a colour is a player. Britain would be Ulm here in the middle would be, Prussia would be. So Germany is the area that's really looking quite empty currently. We do immediately have some player wars. Tunis is currently fighting against, or rather Andalusia is fighting against Portugal. So it's Andalusia and Tunis, the Andalusian conquest of Ondo, versus Portugal, France, Spain, and the Papal States. So where is Ondo? France, Papal States, Portugal, Andalusia, and Spain. So it does look like the Spanish have an army down here in Gibraltar waiting to cross, but they are currently being blocked by the Andalusian and Sale fleets. We've got Sale jumping in against the Papal States trade fleet. By the looks of things, 6 heavy ships. They might well pull off a victory here. Papal States indeed being sent packing. So the little pirate republic belonging to Andalusia has already come in swinging, as we can see there. So where is Ondo? That's what I want to know. What is this all about? Oh, that's London. Where's Ondo? That's Tondo. Ondo. That one. There we go. Okay, so they are fighting over the Portuguese territories in the Ivory Coast, which does not surprise me at all. And this is an area that Portugal and Spain, well, India, in fact, both of them are going to be very, very, very keen to keep on their side, because the Ivory Coast determines where all of the money from the East goes. If you don't have control over the Ivory Coast, you can't control where the money flows into Europe, because all of it goes through here. So it either goes to the Caribbean, or it goes to Bordeaux, or it goes to Sevilla, which is the big one right now, or the English Channel. And if Portugal loses their control of the Ivory Coast, then they will likely either start collecting in the Ivory Coast, or they'll start sending it elsewhere. No, I think they would actually collect in the Ivory Coast if that were the case, because they cannot send it to Safi, Tunis, Katsina, or Timbuktu. And this will rob the Iberian powers of an awful lot of money. So we've got a couple of naval battles. Sale still going up against the French. France coming in with just their transport fleet and immediately being sent away. It looks like the African powers are currently sitting away from the Straits of Gibraltar to see if they can jump in if enemy fleets appear over there. Who are the other powers in this? Spain, Andalusia, Netherlands are in. Whose side are the Netherlands on? The Netherlands are on the European side, so this is very much the... it's the naval players, again. The ones who took down mighty Great Britain last time. Although they're defending here. I don't know if there was any warning about this war coming up. I don't know if they were prepared for this war coming up. But they are all definitely fighting. Hamburg also being in a player conflict, most likely the same one. No! Prussia is fighting against Cologne. And Cologne is allied to the Papal States. So we've got Cologne currently fighting against the Dutch and the Prussians, and then the Papal States being drawn in against the war, in the war against Prussia. So definitely some interesting machinations going on there. Last session was relatively quiet towards the end, but you will remember that Russia and the Ottomans were not allowed to declare any wars during that session as a punishment for breaking some of the rules. That has since been lifted, so the two big nations in the east of Europe currently have their restrictions lifted. So I'm betting that both of these are kind of watching the situation with real interest and may well jump on some of these other powers. Like Tunis might get jumped on by the Ottomans. They are not allied if Tunis looks to be getting too weak. And I know that Spain and Andalusia most likely want to go at each other's throats. We can see the Andalusian army merging up here in Ceuta, and then of course the Spanish in Gibraltar. It looks like Tunis is currently just taking more and more territory. We've got the Congolese army currently hired by Andalusia, so the Congo is finally throwing their hat into the ring and getting involved with the political situation. Oh, who's this? I'm going to click on that. Joloff. You almost snuck by. You a puppet? Nope. Truce with Spain. Were they released by Spain? Spain's still in the war. Spain's still in the war. Then I don't know. Very strange. Hey, Mitch. Is this player versus AI or player versus player? I mean, it's a mixture. At the start, it's just like Hearts of Iron, where you have lots of little different countries, and over time those countries just get absorbed by the player nations, and now it's mostly players. There are still a couple of AI, particularly in the center of Germany, because we've had a very, very strong emperor, and it is absolutely in the emperor's interest to keep a lot of little nations in the HRE, because the more nations there are, the more princes, the more money they make, and the larger their force limit becomes. So I think that Austria has basically said, you are not allowed to take these countries here without my permission. So the fact that Prussia right now is not being played by a player means that they're probably doing these attacks without permission. And yeah, this is mostly a player versus player war, although right now we haven't had very many moves. We've got the Sail fleet bravely protecting the Straits of Gibraltar, meaning that the Spanish cannot cross. I'm wondering where the Allied fleets are, where the Naval Alliance, their navies are. There's a large navy down here in the Eastern base. Right, because Portugal was fighting against Japan last session, I think. So many of their fleets may well be in Indonesia. These guys clearly moving back home towards Iberia, skipping past the threatened territories. Now, are these cores or are these trade companies? These look to me to be core provinces. So this will all count as war score. And the Portuguese are currently losing war score because they do currently own Ondo. I think I probably would have made the target Benim, because it's got a fort, so if you take it, then it's going to be a lot harder for them to ninja back again. But they've chosen to go for Ondo, which is off the coast, so they would need to land troops and then get there. And also, if they do control Benim, then it does have a sphere of influence. AI going to war when player not here, something AI settings forgetting and again. It's up to the players. And if an AI declares an offensive war against a player, the player can take whatever the hell they want. Okay, we have the crossing. We've got the Andalusians marching across the straits. They have the better maneuver stat, so they don't take the straight crossing, but they are still fighting in the mountains, where it is currently 60,000 against 15,000. The Spanish getting absolutely demolished. 115 discipline versus 105. So the Andalusian forces being significantly stronger in that instance. I didn't see what the starting morale situation was, but the Andalusians immediately throwing the Spanish off. The Spanish have not upgraded this fort. This absolutely strategically critical fort is still a level 2. And it looks like the Andalusians are going to be able to take this really quite quickly. They're already at 21%. If they brought in some ships so that they were getting the blockade bonus, then they would be probably taking it next tick. I think we did see briefly there that it was going to be like a 50%er. So it looks like the Andalusians are already across. And then once Gibraltar falls, this straight crossing can no longer be contested. They can just walk across. No problems. Even if Spain and Portugal get naval dominance and hold the Straits of Gibraltar, as long as Gibraltar remains part of Andalusia and as long as Ceuta remains part of Andalusia, or one of the Andalusian allies, then they can cross. Here come the Spanish. They're hoping to block further reinforcement. There might be a French army or something on the march. Nope, France seems to be perfectly content to just sit in France at the moment. Spain has been forced back to Toledo. And otherwise, we are not seeing any movement. Hey, Marshal. So this does look like it's going to be uncontested. I don't know where the Portuguese military is. Like I was saying, Portugal was fighting against Indonesian powers last time, so I suspect that they are still over there. There are a couple taking attrition. Yeah, here's the Portuguese fleet with the Portuguese army, 14,000 at a time, and the rest of the Portuguese are over here, most likely to deal with rebels. And we've got Hindustan, who also grabbed a bunch of Pasai. We've got Portugal, a major Indonesian power. Maguindanao, also a Filipino nation. And then Japan. Golden Age of Piracy. Ooh! Golden Age of Piracy means that we may well see some of the pirate republics starting to emerge. So, Bahamas are a risk. Tortuga is at risk. And then, of course, Jamaica is at risk. Meanwhile, the siege in Spain, currently at 35%. We've got French forces starting to march south, but that's still only going to be 30, 40, 55,000 against the 60,000. Andalusia is not to be underestimated. Andalusia has some absolutely incredible combat abilities. They start out with 15% discipline, morale, which is the same as Spain, and they did just make peace. So I wonder if they just gave up the territory. Yes, they did. So, Portugal has been ousted. Huzzah! Portugal has been ousted from their Ivory Coast provinces. I wonder how this is going to affect the trade situation. So remember, about 16... No, I think it was like 16 or 17 ducats were flowing into Seville. So Iberia has just lost a ton of cash. The Papal States probably lost some cash if they were pulling money out of Sevilla, which it looks like they are. So yeah. Most of this money now being pulled over to the English Channel, but once they manage to secure the trade ports here, they'll be able to lock it into the Ivory Coast and stop it leaving. So then the only European port is going to be Austria. So if Austria chooses to give fleet basing rights to Portugal, to Spain, then they could still base a trade fleet here and try to pull money out that way, but they will be up against the land trade from the land positions here. Ethildrin, thank you very much for the 16-month resubscription. Very much appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, Portugal burns. Portugal just took a big hit. Like, losing their Ivory Coast provinces is probably way worse for them than losing their Indonesian ones. Because with this, you can have as much of Indonesia as you want. If you can't get that money going home, it's irrelevant. There's a little pink dot in Indonesia. Little pink dot. You mean this? It's white. It's Austria. Oh, in Andalusia. That's sail. So this is a pirate republic, which is a March of Andalusia. So this is one of the earlier pirate republics that can spawn, and they are usually a vassal of Morocco. Morocco turned into Andalusia. So Andalusia basically has a pet pirate, which is quite nice. And the pet pirate was actually very, very useful because it kept the Straits of Gibraltar clear. The early victory against the Spanish basically gave them naval superiority. Poet's messaging me. Let me just see what he's saying. Congo Condottieri were crossing the Sahara. Yeah, we saw that. That was down in Africa. And they actually took some of the territory down there as well. So Congo earning their keep. If that was indeed getting paid, I'm not sure. Hope Spain burns, but that is due to the fact that we are playing against them in the European finals. Hey, Faceless! Watching so as to keep up on what's going on, even if I'm not playing anymore. Fair enough. 1982, Spain, who's also a... Oh, douchebag because of the referee in football. They will fall. So at the moment, I think we are waiting for Sir Striker to reconnect. They lost connection, or rather went out of sync. Sir Striker playing as the Commonwealth. Yes, we need our Polish hussars. Lake Belaton needs its hussar forces. Who formed Spain? Castile. Castile sold Andalusia to Andalusia, allowed them to form, which probably wasn't a great idea, seeing as it's now Andalusia that's causing them all the problems. And I don't think that was a friendly purchase. That was definitely not a friendly purchase, because they were actually fighting. It's just that their forces were so far away. That was a great attack by Andalusia and Tunis there, I have to say. Okay, so the Papal States are currently fighting against Mainz and their allied troops. Papal States versus Prussia. It does look like the Prussians are going to get the victory there. Papal States forces being sent away. Prussia currently going after the Papal States provinces in Provence for the war in Cologne. Now, how is that looking? That's a 20%. This is, don't forget, AI right now. That was a big fight. 72 against 75,000. 6 war score. Ouch. But yeah, Prussia should win this one pretty easily. I can't see the Papal States actually giving anything up. They are not co-belligerent, so they'll just be taking losses, basically. Losing money from devastation, losing money from occupations. I don't think they'll be in danger of being